Sup shooters, my name is Logan, aka Spider Hands, and welcome to SB Reviews, where today I'm going to be reviewing an entire album, a record by an artist named Suttleinmeta. Suttleinmeta. There's 9 tracks, an hour long, so this is going to be one of those longer reviews, as you can probably tell from the runtime on this video, but I'm hoping it's going to be well worth it. I'm going to switch over to here. This is Mourning the Death of Rainbows, MTDOR. So we're going to listen to this from start to finish, starting from Transmute Point, finishing on Psidon. And we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. Some interesting kind of synthy electronic elements that we got here. I mean, instantly what you can tell is that this person's fairly competent with their music production. This is not something you'd be able to do easily. Oh. There's an interesting sub bass there that comes in occasionally. Can we make the album art bigger? Can we? Nope, apparently I can't. There we go. That's as big as it's gonna get, so that's fun. Some interesting ingredients in this mix at the moment. That stereo panning's quite nice though. There's a freshness to how they sound. Nice little bit of reverb on some of those tails. Drip drops of water. I mean, it's innately fascinating. I'm not really sure what's going on, but I'm not bored of it. That's very important in an instrumental, you know? And returning to that kind of original musical theme there. So we're going on a journey, from what I can tell, that's very, very personal to the composer. I'm wondering what that sort of vocal sample's referring to. I mean, there's nice like changes in sort of the energies and the dynamic ranges involved. There's like little shifts. There's a lot of kind of low end going on in the percussion sections, which makes me happy because it shows that they know how to master a track. Because the low end isn't particularly overwhelming or anything like that. And some of these very kind of higher kind of range, like frequency range synths are coming through nice and gentle as well, which is good. I mean, from what, like, if we look at the fundamentals of music and composition and songwriting, this theme here is obviously very, very important to the message that they wanted to put forward with this. Whether or not it's a key part of the experience itself, whether it's like relating to something like a certain theme within the album, or both. But as an exercise in like creating an environment with your own sort of orchestration that sounds stylistically coherent and where everything, despite the difference in tonalities and textures, makes sort of musical sense, I think that this has been done well. I mean, it's been 7 minutes. It's very chilled out, kind of relaxed experience. At most, it's sort of melancholic. I think when you don't necessarily aren't being spoon-fed the meaning to a piece of music, you've just kind of make your own sort of interpretation about it. But I also don't want to take the title too literally, you know? But I guess when you don't know what the music is about necessarily, you've got to kinda... I mean, I did read a description about what this track was, what this was about, but I wanted to sort of go into this with an open mind, you know? So I figured it out for myself. Yeah, it's really cool. I like having studied music production myself. I can only imagine how long it would have taken to get all the different sort of envelopes and oscillators sorted with these different synths. It's very well done. I don't know whether these are analog or digital ones. It'd be really cool if this was done through analog synths, and I wouldn't put it past this Suttleinmeta, primarily because of how competent they have shown themselves to be thus far. You might think that it's just fun and games working with analog synths. No, it's the real stuff, man. Mind you, you've also got to have room for analog synths, and they can take up a bit of space sometimes. Asunder, number 2. Cool, each of the 2 tracks has their own unique identity. These hi-hats are interesting. Kind of these stuttery stop, kind of... There's a sort of a grit, an overall kind of tension and anxiety to this which makes sense considering we're talking Asunder. I'm assuming that maybe this is where the rainbows got torn apart and destroyed. It was a very scientific, non-theological affair. Kind of like cyber neo kind of vibes from this. Like, how many different how many different channels do you reckon there are involved in this composition right now? I can hear about 5 or 6, depending on whether or not the drums have been separated into like kicks and snares and stuff. I mean, I know we haven't had snares, but you know what I mean. There's a nice sizzle actually to the overall composition. It's very cool. Kind of sounds like robots trying to communicate to each other, doesn't it? Oh. I like that. I like what's happening here. That stereo padding is really neat. It's very far back in the headphones. Is that like 160, 170%? Like 200%? Yeah, it would have to be, wouldn't it? Cool. Is that a looped sample or something you've got going as kind of like a tape record or something like that? Yeah, you got like a noise oscillator or something going on in there, eh? It's very cool. I would like to know more about the synths that they use in this. It'd be fun to have a chat to Suttleinmeta and learn more about their compositions. But for now, I listen to their music. Wow, it's been 3 minutes already. That's pretty crazy. You know, you gotta hand it to this album thus far, you know. It's pretty engaging without... Oh, hello. What's happening here? It's quite cinematic and theatrical. It's kind of a fun experience. Like yesterday I was recording this really incredible country EP. Reviewing it, I mean. And now I'm listening to this. Can't really complain about that, you know? That's a good life. That's a good life. I am tense about this, though. There's like a majorish kind of tone to the pads. But there's like a dissonance to a lot of the other elements, and I'm unsure of what's really occurring here. Are things being rebuilt? Is a bit of a chaotic birth? What's going on? Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know what the next word means. For track number 3, or how to say it. I'm gonna Google it. Like real quick after the song finishes. Really quickly after the song finishes. See. This does kind of make me wonder whether it is analog synths. But it's been really smooth so far. Like, it's been like a sort of a seamless, kind of flawless kind of experience. I am trying to be objective. I guess if I was to have a critique, if I was to critique it, it'd be, I don't know if I'm getting enough clues about how I'm supposed to interpret this, or whether this is completely up to interpretation. Oh, the
Fecundity.
Fecundity. The ability to produce an abundance of offspring or new growth, fertility. Ah, okay. So it's ability to sort of give birth to new ideas, or for fertility. All right. So that's what fecundity means. Thank you, Suttleinmeta. I have learned a new word today. Let's listen to fecundity. Kind of makes sense in this context. Torn asunder and then ready to give birth again. I was talking about that before, actually, end of Asunder. Well, that was some cool sweep picking there. Are we suddenly going to go into progressive metal albums or something like that? That'd be kind of dope. I had one come through a couple of weeks ago like that. It was similar to this, and then suddenly there were like double kicks and distorted 8-string guitars and stuff. It was really dope. But yeah, no, pretty dope guitar player, man. I gotta hand it, you got the chops. I'm assuming the fecundity is talking about like the birth of sort of musical concepts. Hey, we're kind of matching that synth with the guitar work. It's actually not a particularly simple like task to get guitar working with these sort of synthetic electronic elements. Like, it requires a bit of careful mixing and mastering and IRs and all that kind of stuff to like to get that sitting right and sounding like everything kind of fits together well. But it's been done correctly here, I think. Having it a little bit lower in the mix so that it sticks its head out a little bit but not too much is helpful, I think. Very kind of airy, kind of almost kind of very misty kind of affair. It's like being in the mountains. But I remain interested in this. I'm glad that I'm reviewing it. It's very different. Back to that sort of sweepy stuff. It's almost like someone's sitting there trying to come up with a new concept and like stopping and sort of affirming whether or not they want to continue with it. Combined with these very ominous kind of pads and synths and kind of very kind of round, Moogish kind of bits. Wonder how much a Moog synth is. Oh, might get a Moog synth at some point. They're really cool, man. Oh, that's a fun sound. I like how it's looped and how he has it sitting there for a while as kind of a thought process or something like that. Kind of makes me kind of wonder if if this artist is describing what's within their own head, you know? It would be cathartic and therapeutic, I suppose. But no, well done. Fecundity is a third really stellar track. This is personally my favorite at this moment, because I think I understood it a little better than the others. I am also typically a fan of shorter tracks. I'm not super duper into like really long tracks within an album, unless they can justify that length with either the progression or the talent, performance. Anti-heroics. What is this? Number 4. This is very different. Got some pan flutes. Interesting. It's nice that there's kind of clicky clacks kind of going on here. Kind of a quarter note groove on the main elements, and then you got like, there's like a 16th on the hats, right? Ooh. Oh, did we have a half beat there? A 9/8 sequence. Oh. Hello. That took me a little bit there. That bup. My only concern with something like this is how accessible it is. I would say this music could be sort of created either for the person's own enjoyment, like the composer's own enjoyment, and like their interpretation of the subject matter, or for a very specific kind of listener. I think you need to have a really... I'm at risk of sounding like the Rick and Morty high IQ meme at this point. Like, what I mean is, and it's nothing like that really, it's just you kind of have to understand music theory and how the different instruments work and all that, and the phrasing and composition of it to really sort of appreciate a track like this. Like, especially if you gave it to someone who was like more used to sort of vocal-oriented music, they might listen to this and they'll probably enjoy it, but they might not necessarily know what's going on, you know? But that's okay, because not all music needs to be, again, spoon-fed. Some music can be like this, where it's reasonably progressive, it's kind of giving you time to make up your own mind about it. Like, if this is like Suttleinmeta playing all of these different instruments, that's just incredible. That's like out of this world. Massive props. And given the cadence on the way it's being performed, I would suggest that's probably the point. Kinda sounds like a baby crying. I mean, there's some very intense soloing going on right now, but it's like still so relaxed because of how dominant the rest of the mix is. It's like each person is talking inside a restaurant and everyone's talking one at a time, you know? There's still that background noise which makes it feel like a restaurant, even if the conversation is about something really intense and extreme. That hand drum looks fun. And it sounds like raindrops. It's weird having that kind of like diddle kind of groove in that part of the headphones because of how it's been mixed. It's like it's tapping on your brain. That's an unusual feeling. I'm not sure if I like that or not. We've got like a sort of a fade out, is that right? Oh my goodness, we're at the halfway point, ladies and gents. Can't nearly. We've got a 10-minute track coming up. We got Glimpse Rhetoric. Glimpse Rhetoric coming up, should I say. Big boy, 9 minutes. Let's do it. It's like a lullaby, isn't it? This is very soothing. Kind of, I'm zoning out a little bit, and that's obviously not what we want with a track like this. Wait, well, no, I mean with a review like this. It is very much music that you can sit back and kind of relax to, or music that you can kind of go into your own head with. Sort of reflective, introspective affair. I think that's going to be the major draw for a piece of music like this. Is the fact that you can have that experience with it. That it encourages you to go inside your own head and consider things differently. Ooh, pretty. Look at that slow build. Hey, part 2. It would have taken an incredibly long time to get this all sort of lined up and put together. This is a work of, like, love. This is a passion project. And in, like, the most genuine, like, caring, like, positive way possible. This is... Like, a piece of music like this is not something you do because you like for S and Gs, you know? Like, obviously Suttleinmeta really cares about, like, the art form, the medium. I wanted to give it their best shot. There's never been any really massive peaks though, like... I'm wondering if there will come a point where it really crescendos, or maybe it's just mixed this way because it's just meant to consistently be low and then the medium kind of intensity, you know? Like these interesting kind of like triplets that come in like that, that aren't necessarily like in the same kind of groove as the rest of them and kind of going counter meta. Like they're in sort of sync with the beats, obviously, because that would potentially be a complete... That would be difficult to listen to, you know, like for a bit. I think it's cool that we're mixing up the meters, because when you do introduce a concept that's not in the same time signature, it makes it stand out and you're forced to sort of pay attention to it. Where are we going with this though? Is it going to continue to move upwards? Is it going to go back down? We haven't really had any vocal samples since that first track, have we? We have breathing now, though, I suppose. Oh, is that like a breathy kind of pad that he's modulating now? That's fascinating. It sounded like someone breathing, and now it's like being kind of screwed with like that. This kind of sequence here is kind of dope, though. Is this going to crescendo now, or we're going to kind of stay at this point? How does this connect to the breathing? Glimpse Rhetoric, Anti-Heroics, Fecundity Asunder, Transmute Point. Got a bit of a phaser going on as well for like effect. What are they fighting for here? It's being staged and in levels of intensity, and I'm wondering why that's being done. Yeah, see, like, it's interesting and it's sort of like almost kind of quite academic, isn't it? It doesn't come off as pretentious though, which I am very appreciative of. Kind of a staccato kind of vibe to this. Oh, I'm bringing it out again. Well, that was a kind of a surreal experience there. It was so gentle and it ended on those sort of like the ARP, and it was yeah. We go Vividity number 6. It's kind of tunes could be from like a sci-fi movie in the 80s, eh? Or like an Adventure Time episode. Okay, there's a lot more of an aggressive low end to this. Vividity? How full of life is this? How full of color is it? It is very colorful music. Got a few main voices. Ooh, very sinister, very kind of gruesome. Filthy, really. I dig it. Yeah, it's very curious how they arrange these kind of lower ones. The only drums we've really had is like, it was like 3 or 4, wasn't it? We had like a kick and a kind of a clappy kind of vibe. It's like respectable that they avoided the temptation to put that in with those kind of low synths. All these different like there's so much movement, but it's like it doesn't know where to go. It's like it just exists as a colorful entity. I don't know what the time signature is. I haven't really spoken about that, have I? It's like almost like this music is just so avant-garde that the time signature is just kind of irrelevant, you know? I think that's why it's sort of more sort of theatrical or cinematic, is because you don't have an idea of where you're really at in the song aside from the minute and the second. You're not necessarily trying to follow it as opposed to simply, you know, you're just existing within it. Or it exists around you. Like, it's not completely random, obviously. There's returning elements like this that kind of increase the rate. Kind of a helicopter-y kind of a square synth. I have a lot of love for how well it's been mixed and how everything's been EQ'd and everything like that. That would, again, I know I keep saying this. It's not to be underestimated how much work went into the post-production at all. I just hope I'm like right about even just like 1 or 2 of the things I've said about my interpretations of the music, you know? Or that maybe I hope I'm right and not knowing much about it because it's not really meant to be a set meaning. I'm liking the occasional vocoder. I wonder where like Suttleinmeta is gonna go with this in future. Like, is this the tone they want for for their signature, or are they going to continue to try different things? To be fair to that's very unique. I haven't really listened to much music like this at all. And it hasn't managed to sort of capture or enamor me like this before. I don't typically enjoy being confused by music, but this is okay. And that was that. That was that. That was Vividity. We've got 3 more tracks to go. We got the Gleaming Veils, True Siren, and Psidon. I think what's really cool, before I continue, what's really cool about this album is that you know the deal with the rest of it from that first track. You get a good indication of what's going to continue. There's set ways that individual instruments are treated that helps you to understand where the others are going to come and how they're going to sort of like behave with each other. But there's also enough difference between them as well. There's these continued sort of separate identities which kind of create a sort of whole that's intricate and fascinating. The Gleaming Veils, 10 minutes. We will see. Like, I'm acutely aware that music doesn't need to be between 2 and 4 minutes. I have no issues with that whatsoever. It does concern me sometimes when people write music this length because, you know, like if this was like your first impression, you know, it's like, okay, there's a chance that, especially if they're singing, right? That if you need 10 minutes to voice the main message of your song, something's gone terribly wrong, right? But when you've got an instrumental like this and it's more of an experience or an opportunity to learn more about music or yourself or the artist, I think it's fine, right? The Gleaming Veils. But again, this is the talent on display here, is that like 10 seconds, a minute and a half feels like 10 seconds. This is kind of how you can justify having a track of this length. You know, if there were random spikes in volumes, or if it was just random tempos, or if there was no connection between any sort of the different, like there's no transitions or anything like that, it would be incredibly depressing, I fear, but no, we avoid it with this one. As far as I can tell, right, this is their release. Yeah. This is the one release from them, and it's a hell of an introduction. I can understand why they wouldn't have gone for a single. I think this is one of those albums where you need everything to get it in context. I like those kind of synths there, particularly. They get me nostalgic for a few of the old PS1 games, like Spyro games. There's similar sounding synths in those and like the snow levels. You know, you can kind of imagine curtains. You know what I mean? Like the Gleaming Veils. That stereo panning. How it was kind of building an intensity and speeding up was kind of dope. I think part of why it's so interesting is there's also no like dull moments. There are consistently different elements being tossed in. Some of them are completely brand new, others hark back to previous tracks within this album. Kind of further tying it all together. It's kind of like the music is having a conversation with itself. I don't really know what else to say about this one though. Like the sub bass is really nice and tidy. I mean, you can kind of tell that this has been more of an organic kind of performance as opposed to one that's been keyed in and just humanized because of the different loudnesses of the sort of like the weighted keys on those synths, which is pretty nice. Like even if they're compressed, you can still tell there's a difference between them. I like that. Like, are we waiting for something to occur? Is this like the real time of after, like that? Like, from what I can tell, Transmute, something got injected into a space that tore the rainbows apart, and then like the Fecundity is talking about your ability to create new rainbows. Anti-heroics is maybe not going too crazy with the creativity or like the amount of rainbows. Glim's Rhetoric is kind of trying to understand when you don't need to answer anything or really don't need to take any consideration into effect. Vividity is trying to make the most out of life and create the best possible colorful sort of concepts or like rainbows. The Gleaming Veils is the rainbows just being by themselves and just kind of like trying their best to shine, despite the distractions and the things sort of obscuring you away from it. That's my best take on this. I mean, it's nice that the sort of low end has kind of gone away now, and you've got a bit of brightness in there and a bit of sort of airiness. I haven't heard that there's just so much detail there on like in the various levels of loudnesses. There's like 3 or 4 different layers, not just of instrumentation, but also of volumes. It's crazy, dude. This is like not to be underestimated, as I said before. This is not an easy thing to create. Just hopefully the music communicates what it needs to. Have the veils correctly gleamed? It sounds like we're finishing on a higher note, so I assume that everything worked out in the end. True Siren. Was that meant to go in like that? That sounded like it was cut short. That might be something that would be worth looking at. Because if that was like cut short because we might not have bounced at the right point. Unless that was meant to be a very kind of sudden like end. But number 8. Oh, I feel like we've been on adventures today, boys and girls. I'm not sure where to, but we're trying our best. And like when I say stuff like that, I don't think this music is bad. I adore this music. I'm just still trying to make my mind up about where we're at within it. That's all. I just want to state that. I got a lot of love for it. Really do. In fact, just to prove it. I don't do it often, but I have a lot of respect for what's been done here. I do indeed. So where are we going with this? True Siren. So is it after it's been gleaming? Or after it's come to life? Is it now proud of who it is and it's becoming a better thing, or it's telling everyone about itself? Or is it mourning the loss of itself? It sounds fairly neutral. Yeah, it sounds like a child's been born, man. I'm getting that kind of like natural kind of vibe from it. It's able to stand on its own 2 feet. I'm loving the bass interacting with the kind of... Is that a harp or something like that? And it kind of radio signals out. That is really cool how that works together. Kind of sounds like a vacuum cleaner there. Like, are these sounds that Suttleinmeta is making themselves? Because that's phenomenal. Like, the sound design is just on point. Like, wow. It's just unbelievable. Vocals? Oh, those flutes come back in. How would you even plan this out? This person should work on film scores, dude. They do fantastic. Psidon. Hang on, I don't know what Psidon means. I'll be right back. I mean, we've got Poseidon, was god of the sea, earthquakes, storms, and horses, and was considered one of the most bad-tempered, moody, and greedy Olympic gods. I couldn't find one for Psidon. I'm guessing that's just a name. Which is cool. Maybe that's the name of what was born from it. Very gentle. I'm wondering how this is going to finish the album because... like, how would you finish something like this? I'm liking the groove of those stereo pan kind of sequence going, kind of reversed. Kind of a reversed take on those. It's kind of a 16th note groove throughout all of this. It's dope, man. It's a very round, subby kind of bass we got going on here. But I'm liking that resonance and light low mids. This percussion's kind of dope as well with these cymbals, these bells. How many different instruments and channels have we had involved in this album, do you think? I'd say about like, probably 30 to 40, maybe 50. 50? How do you keep track of that many? How do you figure out where to put them? I really hope that Suttleinmeta got what they wanted out of this record, because with something with this much input, it really needs to be adored. Yeah, I mean, I know I've said this before, but I think about what really helps this album stand out is the fact that there is just no real glimpse of like a time signature or a main sort of accent or anything like that. It's just very kind of free flowing, very through composed. It's free from any particular boundaries. It's definitely very, very sort of organic, despite the the synthetic elements. And then that way, that's kind of beautiful, you know? I think I've gotten used to this music now though, so like I can kind of find a sort of like something to hold on to and kind of bop to, which I think is kind of, it's bittersweet, right? Because I don't know about you, but I've spent the last hour trying to understand this music, what it wants to sort of communicate, where it's going, etc. And for me to only sort of get the hang of it now in the last minute and a half is, you know, it's no fault of Suttleinmeta. It's basically just, I think, everyone's sort of impersonal experience with it. It does sound like it's concluding though. I don't know what I'm gonna say about this in my conclusion. Dude, I don't know, man. It's one of the most unique experiences I've had listening to a record. Like, I say that without hyperbole. I like to be honest within these reviews. You know, I don't really know how to approach this one in terms of my conclusion. I really wish I knew what Psidon was. Maybe, yeah. It's alright though. I'm just going to turn the camera on now. There we go. That was Mourning the Death of Rainbows MTDOR by Suttleinmeta, released this year. We listened to the whole thing, 9 tracks. Wow. I'm going to keep this brief because I think I've given my thoughts on this throughout this entire review. This is kind of the beauty of these longer ones, is that you do repeat yourself, and so it kind of saves you at the end needing to then refine those points. I don't really have any complaints about this record at all. I know it's kind of crappy to start with the negatives. If we look at the positives, let's just start with the positives. I think that it's one of the most creative, unique endeavors I've listened to in my time as a music reviewer. And I am very, very privileged to have been able to check out this, because I genuinely do not know if I would ever have heard it otherwise. It's not music I typically go out and search for. It's not music I am particularly affiliated with, but I want to listen to more of it. It's like some of the records I've listened to recently where they've been genres I don't particularly have a lot of familiarity with, but I'm now interested, and this has piqued my curiosity to a certain extent. I've had experiences with some music like this in the past where it's been borderline ridiculous. The music is kind of arrogant, presumptive, and it just assumes that you're going to be able to figure it out without it giving you no clues whatsoever, to an extent that you almost feel stupid when you listen to it. I didn't get that with Mourning the Death of Rainbows. I think that there is enough in there with the titles of the music, as well as the little elements and ingredients, to kind of help understand it a little bit better. I think each of these had their own sort of unique identity, but they also, as I've said a lot of times before, and I'm trying to avoid repeating myself, but I love that they linked together so well. Aside from Gleaming Veils, I'm not sure if it was meant to end like that. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Maybe that's just Spotify being a bit silly. But in regards to what has been achieved here, this is an extraordinary feat in music production and musicianship, and I absolutely applaud Suttleinmeta with this release, as I can only assume this is their first release on Spotify, considering I couldn't see any others when we checked. I applaud this. I have a lot of love for what, if you're watching this Suttleinmeta, I have a lot of love for what you've been able to accomplish today. I can't guarantee I understood it, and it's entirely. It's not that I don't consider myself a sort of an ignorant or a stupid person, right? I just think there's these sort of higher level concepts that were explored, which I maybe didn't get on the first listen. This music definitely has replay value. I think, though, it's kind of like some albums, like you need to listen to it in its entirety if you're going to listen to it. I think this is, again, part of the reason why there wasn't a single released for this album, was because it's like a through composed experience, but you need to listen to the whole thing. And that's dope. That's cool. That's fine. That makes it a unique experience, again, all by itself. It's very independent. It's music that is trying to serve its own means without trying to alienate the listener. It's providing you with something you probably wouldn't get a lot of the time unless you really search for it. And again, I'm very happy that I got the opportunity to listen to it. The mixing and mastering was spot on. The musical performances were absolutely stellar. I loved some of the more sort of acoustic, or like the parts I definitely could tell were recorded, like the guitar parts and like the flute parts and all that. There's a magnanimous amount of talent involved. It's just so kind of astounding. And I wish Suttleinmeta the best of luck in future with their endeavors. But thank you for watching this review of Mourning the Death of the Rainbows, MTDOR by Suttleinmeta. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Please do check out their Spotify and listen to this album on your own, and without me interrupting and talking over it, as I'm sure that would potentially be a more enjoyable experience to just focus on that music and just be enveloped in it. Because I think that is kind of how this music is meant to be done. You're just meant to sit down with some decent headphones and just enjoy it, right? Please do stay cool and stay safe, and also remember to support your local musicians and artists, as point in time is need to help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next review. Spider hands out.